Hello and welcome back to the Pilates equipment series. So the piece of apparatus I'm standing in front of here is the ladder barrel. So the reason it's called that is because you have one piece of wood with several rungs here, which is your ladder, and this other piece right here, which is called a barrel. It slides back and forth. It's adjustable. It has a different distance depending on what type of exercise you want to do on it. Now, before we go into all of the exercises that you would do on the ladder barrel, I want to explain a little bit about the culture of how Pilates uses this piece of equipment. So the ladder barrel is something that is usually relegated into private classes or private clients. And the reason that is that first of all, it's quite an expensive piece of apparatus. It's heavy to move, and it's something that you probably see maybe one or two of, even in a very well-appointed studio. Not only that, when you are working with this piece of equipment, Pilates instructors will not be quite as familiar. The reason for this is twofold. First of all, if you only have one piece of equipment that you're working with in only a private setting, what happens is you will not be using it quite as much as if you're teaching classes on reformer or if you're doing mat classes. As I always say, whatever you do a lot of, you're going to get good at. So if you teach 5 to 10 mat classes every week, you're going to get really good at mat classes. If you're teaching on the reformer all the time, you're going to be exceptional at teaching reformer classes. However, if you only ever teach on the ladder barrel, maybe once or twice a week, if that, just because of the fact that you're not as familiar and you're not using it as often means that you will not have the level of proficiency as you do with something else. It's just like if you speak a language. The more you speak that language, the better you get at it. And even if you were fluent in a language as a child, if you don't speak it for many years, then you might not be as good, or you may lose that proficiency. Ask me how I know. The other reason is because of the way the ladder barrel is manufactured. For instance, this distance between the barrel and the ladder is variable. In order to change that distance, usually you have little knobs that you unscrew, and then you move this back and forth. Now let me tell you, on some of the ladder barrels that I've worked with throughout my career, that can be a real pain because you have to get down here in a very cramped, narrow space, undo some knobs, and then move this barrel. Then you have to get back down there and tighten them up, and that can be a process, and you have to tighten them up fairly tight for safety reasons. The other thing that happens is that then, once it's all set in position, it's only good for a certain number of exercises. The important thing about the ladder barrel exercises is that you have to have the exact correct distance from the apex of the barrel to the ladder for various exercises. If that's off, you literally can't do some exercises correctly, and it may serve as a safety issue on other ones. So therefore, what most studio owners will do is they will set the ladder barrel in one particular dimension that's good for a series of exercises that they're happy with, that they like teaching. And then if they need to do some other series of exercises, then they have to go through that laborious process of moving this barrel back and forth and then setting it. And so therefore, simply because it's so inconvenient, many studio owners and Pilates instructors just will not go through that trouble. And so therefore, if you have people that were raised in that culture with equipment that was hard to move, and then we teach our students who become Pilates instructors how to work with this equipment, and we only ever keep the equipment in one location, then that just propagates itself throughout time. However, what I'm standing in front of right here is a balanced body ladder barrel. They have the advantage of being able to be easily moved back and forth. So there's a little gas pedal down here that you depress and you move back and forth. Let me show you this. I'm going to move this here so you can easily see. There's a pedal that lifts two pegs up out of position. Then you use these handles right here at the edges of the barrel to slide this back and forth. Now, as you can see, it's quite easy to maneuver the barrel back and forth. That ease of motion means that you can use this ladder barrel in any number of exercises and very, very quickly and easily change the dimensions of this machine. And so therefore, that leads to the fact that it's going to be easier to teach exercises on. What this would be like is if you are a runner and you have your shoes right at the edge of your bed. So as soon as you get up, you see your shoes, you put them on, and you go. So therefore, if you know this piece of apparatus is easy to move and you can quite simply change this, have your client get on safely, and then do your exercises, you're much more likely to use it. So therefore, now let's start the process of working with the ladder barrel. Now, talking about this particular piece of equipment, you have little markings right here that are very faintly etched into the frame of your ladder barrel. In fact, some instructors don't even know that they're there because they are very, very faint. So if you look on the right-hand side here, they go all the way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And the 12th position is the final one. So therefore, what I would behoove you to do as Pilates instructors, or if you are a Pilates enthusiast or practitioner, is to memorize at what position a particular exercise works for you. And just know that there's going to be a little bit of wiggle room. The other thing to realize is this. Whenever you're working with a client, if you're a teacher, do not be shy about getting the exact correct positioning. I fully realize back in the day, because this thing was so hard to adjust, sometimes we kind of like said, you know what? It's a little bit out of position, we're just going to work with this. Now you have absolutely no excuse to position yourself just right on this ladder barrel. So memorize what positions work best for you. And if you have somebody that's on this machine and your gut tells you, yeah, that doesn't look right, absolutely get your client off of the machine, adjust the machine, and then get them back on. And you may have to do that 2 or 3 times, and that right there is the price you pay for having working with the ladder barrel and having good position on it. So absolutely do not be shy about doing so. In fact, there have been times when I've gotten people on and off this thing about 5, 6 times. They'll do an exercise, they'll say, you know, that doesn't feel right, or I will tell them, wait a second, that looks good, and they'll tell me it feels good, but I'll say, you know what? Try this out. Come on off. Let's do one more change. They get back on. Oh my God, this feels so much better. And so therefore, that is something that you will want to take absolutely full advantage of. All right, let's go on to the exercises.